We are so thrilled to be partnering with Hinge. Hinge is the dating app designed to be deleted. As you all know, I'm a huge Hinge advocate as I met my partner of almost 3 years on the app. Even before meeting him, Hinge was always my go-to app because I met more relationship-minded people here and had some great dates. Clearly, I haven't been on the app for a little while, but I re-downloaded it to check out some of the new features. One that stood out to me was the voice prompt, my best friend's take on why you should date me, where your friend can hype you up. Not only does this make the profile creation less daunting, but it's not always easy to see your own green flags. So to test it out, I asked Yue some fun prompts to get her take on what I could put if I was dating again. So the first one, how long have we known each other? What was your first impression of me and how has that changed?
Julie and I have known each other for almost 10 years. My first impression of Julie was that she's very social, but I've learned that she has a lot more depth to her beyond the social butterfly that she is.
My next prompt, what do you think are my green flags?
I would say she's deeply loyal. She believes in love, curious mindset, and she is fearlessly ambitious.
And then last but not least, what kind of friend am I?
Julie is the kind of friend who will always have your back, no matter what.
Damn, that feels nice to hear. So download Hinge and try voice prompts today. Then find someone worth deleting the app for. I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
The Dateable podcast is hosted by me. I'm Yue, a former dating coach in New York turned active dater in San Francisco. On each episode, you'll hear commentary by my producer, Julie Kraftchick, and other surprise co-hosts. This episode of Dateable is brought to you by 500 Brunches. 500 Brunches connects like-minded people with similar interests to meet in real life over brunch. You answer a quick questionnaire about your interests and how you spend your time, and then they'll match you in small groups of 6 to 8 at a brunch spot in San Francisco. Get a free entry into a brunch now by signing up at 500brunches.com and using the code DATEABLE. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show that opens up a candid conversation about dating in San Francisco. I've got a couple in the studio. You know, it's funny with couples, it's always the dynamic when you see them in person versus when you see them individually. I know Lee, and I've never met her husband, Chris, but I know all about him through previous stories and discussions and girl talk that we've had. Just a little backstory about both of them. So Lee's been in San Francisco for 6 years. She's in her 30s, and Chris is also in his 30s, and he's been in San Francisco for like a year and a half, so not that long, kind of a newbie. The best part is, this is how I met Lee. She and I met on China's #1 dating show. Okay, it's called If You're the One. Don't roll your eyes, Julie. Don't roll your eyes. This was like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. It was filmed in Beijing, right outside of Beijing. And I shit you not, this is the most watched reality show in China. And they had this special edition. Do you know about this, Chris?
I know about
okay.
This partially. So
partially. Oh, okay. Well, she didn't tell you how famous we got. No.
Probably the most watched in the world.
Probably the most watched, because of the population. 6 gazillion people watched these episodes. So there were 4 special edition episodes for Chinese living abroad. And this was the Chinese living in the US. edition. So we met on the show. And when I moved to San Francisco, Lee and I kind of hung out. We went rock climbing. And she's like, I have to tell you about this guy I met recently. So let's start there. Tell me about the guy you met.
Yeah, so it's quite a story because every time when I talk about it, people are like, whoa, this is so amazing. So I actually met my husband, Chris, through
who's sitting right next to you.
From Airbnb. Okay, so 2 years ago when I actually started hosting Airbnb in Soma when I moved over to Soma. And the reason why I started was because I realized the living cost was just so high, and I decided to, I live in a loft, and I decided to rent out my downstairs.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? And then so it turns out it was working really great, and I was able to cover most of my expense in the house, which is awesome.
Perfect.
I was just happy, hosting a lot of people coming to Moscone Center, having conferences, and a lot of professionals, and I do make sure that I check their LinkedIn, their Facebook, their everything online before they move in for short term.
You can make a killing during Dreamforce.
Yeah.
A killing.
Exactly. I didn't get to cover September though.
Oh, darn.
But yeah, so Chris was one of the guys. I wasn't quite sure. Then I went onto his Facebook and stalked all his pictures. And he looks like a legit guy.
To be fair, a serial killer is not going to post pictures of him in mid-killing on a Facebook profile, okay? Just so you know. He's going to look pretty normal, too.
Right.
I think a key part of it was like that I mentioned that I am visiting to go to the Apple Developer Conference.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of what made it seem like a little bit more legit.
Software
I guess,
engineers
Yeah. So it's just one of those nerds. So
it's like just a nerd, yeah.
Now, from what I recall, when we spoke, you said, this guy just looked pretty harmless.
Yeah, he
from
looked
his photos.
really harmless. He looked really, really harmless. Yeah, he just puts a big smile on every picture. So I was like, I could not say no eventually after seeing all the pictures. Like,
were
such a
you
good guy.
attracted to him based on photos?
No.
His Facebook photos?
Not at all. I don't know. He almost seemed like he was too nice.
Were you attracted to her based on photos? Is that why you wanted to do it?
Of course, I also looked at her Facebook pictures and saw like, oh, nice. So I thought she has so she smiles on nearly every picture she has on there, and I think she has I thought she has a pretty genuine smile and looked like a so happy person. And I said, oh yeah, she looks nice. That's a good host. So
neither one of you expected this to be some sort of hookup.
No, not at all.
Okay.
So
You were like, I just need somewhere to stay.
No, for me, it's actually like,
Two different motivators here. Money and home. Yeah. Okay. So, continue.
Oh, yeah. So, I just sent him my address, and at the day, I was totally just, at home with my pajamas. I was relaxed. I wasn't prepared when he showed up. I knew he was going to be there, just like one of my other guests. So I was relaxed, and he rang the bell, and he was like, hey, I'm here.
And also, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there was some, when we spoke, you gave me a little bit insight into where you were in life. And at that point, you were a little bit down on dating, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were kind of like giving up, like at a point where you're like, whatever.
Yeah, I was
whatever
at the
happens,
point when...
Men suck.
Exactly, because in the past, I've met, boys, and I've used dating apps, and nothing really worked out. I wasn't sure why, and it's just, San Francisco is such a city where, everyone's just so busy, and they don't have time to invest in relationships.
Right.
So that's sort of my conclusion, and I was like, I'm busy too. I'm just going to stay single and see what happens next.
In your pajamas.
In my pajamas.
You're like, I'm going to be comfortable while I'm
I'm going to be comfortable. I wasn't dressed up, which I kind of regretted when I was at the door.
Why?
And Chris shows up because in person he looks different from the pictures.
Also. So you were pleasantly surprised?
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, he shows up as a really like nice, genuine gentleman who looks like very fit.
Okay, in her words, she said, when he came to the door, I opened the door and said, this guy is hot.
Yeah, this guy is hot, in short. Yeah.
And what did you think when she opened the door, Chris?
So, yeah, I mean, I saw the pictures before and I thought she looks really nice and like a happy person and definitely good looking. So the first night we went to dinner together because I didn't have anything to do and I wanted to stay awake because of the time adjustment. And
I think there's like a key event.
Oh yeah, of course.
At the dinner.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before the dinner. So I drove Chris to Tenderloin for dinner at my favorite Thai restaurant in there. So I parked my car there. And Chris actually went around the car and picked me up from the driver's seat. I was like, oh, this guy's so sweet. And then we start walking to the restaurant. And then a weird guy approached us on the way. And Chris, and that guy was approaching from my side. And Chris immediately ran over to that side to protect me. So I think that event was like
very gentleman-like.
Yeah, the gentleman-like action that actually was like sort of set my expectations higher for this guy. And I mean, like I had really, really good impression after that event.
Is that when the sparks started to fly for you?
I think so. For me, yeah.
Okay, and Chris, do you remember doing this, or this is just
I remember
natural?
that. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, it's of course a little bit natural because like I think it's just if I'm with whoever, like with a girl, woman, or whatever, and there's potentially someone approaching, it's just natural for me to kind of I switch sides and I make sure that she's on the safe side, and yeah.
When did the attraction start for you?
I mean, I was already like slightly attracted when I saw the Facebook pictures for the first time, and then when we started like talking more, and I really liked her, and that was pretty quick. Yeah.
When did the kiss happen?
It was on the Wednesday then. It was on a Wednesday. So
like 4 days later.
Yeah. So we were
wasted no time.
So we wanted to go. Like there were all those parties happening around the conference, and so she was also thinking about going to one of the parties with friends actually, and so we made plans to meet up with my friends and with her and her friends, and it turned out that her friends bailed out, so it was only her. So we picked her up. Then we went to, it was a pocket gamers party. Yeah. And technically the whole evening there, I only spoke with her. And there was a lot of wine involved. And so the actual kiss, so like fast forward. So we then walked over to, after the party was over, we walked over to the Marriott Hotel, because she said like, oh yeah, let's go to the Marriott. There's a nice view up there and we can have a last drink there. And then go home. And so, we all went to the Marriott. So we already were holding hands a little bit.
Already holding hands?
Yeah.
Who initiated the hand holding?
I think it was Chris.
Was it?
Yeah, on the way walking.
But I think it was also pretty much needed because I was a little bit.
It was out of necessity.
So I don't know if you could have made the way on your own.
Those parties sneak up on you.
Or she was just pretending.
Or maybe, maybe she was a smart one here. Yeah. Yeah, and then it actually happened like in the Marriott Hotel, like with a nice view over San Francisco.
How did you guys part ways?
So we said, okay, this cannot be it. So we both kind of like thought, okay, we cannot just leave it like this. This has to have like a next episode. And so we made plans to say, okay, let's meet up in New York. So I think it was my idea, kind of, right? So let's meet up in New York, maybe in 5-6 weeks or so. And what actually was also pretty funny. So she had on her whiteboard to-dos written down. And yeah, I was alone in the loft, and I said, okay, I cannot just leave like this. And so I put on her to-do list another to-do, meet with Chris in New York. So.
And at any point in all of this, did you stop and think, this is batshit crazy?
Yeah. We actually talk about it on a daily basis. We're like, this is so crazy. It's not going to sustain. Yeah. And but it ends up, like, we just ended up, even though we're thousands of miles away, we started calling each other whenever we had time.
We're texting and calling a lot,
yeah.
and we were happy for FaceTime. So this is like was really great. So we could still, even being so far away, could get to know each other better and like see each other kind of. That definitely helped. And I was kind of in a phase of my life where I was pretty open to anything, to pretty much anything. So if you would have met me a few years before, I wouldn't even have thought about like moving out of the city I was living in. But at that time I was like open to anything, and I was already doing like things that I usually wouldn't do, like go to a random seminar and fly to London like just a week later or something. It was pretty much crazy, but but it felt also right. So.
What happens in New York? Take us to New York.
Yeah, New York was pretty much the event we kind of mutually agreed to have our official second date.
First world problem.
So we were like, make it or break it. Let's go to New York and decide on whether or not we're gonna be serious with each other, because, you know, I see a lot of roadblocks about, like, especially the distance. Yeah. And there's no way it's gonna work out, and I can't meet him every so often, right? So that was my concern back in the days. And then so we met in New York, and we're so happy to see each other. This was like 3 months after.
No. It was 5 weeks. It was just 5 weeks.
Exactly, 5 weeks. Okay.
5 weeks only. So we met in New York. We hung out like in the city, and we had like multiple days every day. I think just one night we both had like some beer at the German brewery in Brooklyn, and then we started crying.
Not we. So that's also a little bit
only Chris
inaccurate. No, it was.
Well, okay, I was crying.
Yeah. So she was actually. She had like a lot of doubts about like how we could make this work at all. And I was giving her always multiple scenarios how we could make it work, and say, hey, I can come over. Like we have this visa-free traveling from Germany. I can stay for 90 days. I'm a freelancer. I can take some time off. It's totally fine. Let me figure it out. But at this night, she was just, everything was coming down on her. She said, okay, I just cannot handle it. I don't know how we make this work. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first time that I told her that I love her. And that was pretty much then also, I think, like key to say, okay, yeah, she felt the same, and we both. New York. This was in New York. She was crying, and we went outside of the bar, and yeah, I opened up to that. It was kind of obvious that we had like a good chemistry before, but this was the first time that I said it, and she said it too, and I think that was when we both strongly felt, okay, this is worth it, and we have to make it happen. And she also gained a little bit more confidence about that we can make it happen, and that I was serious about wanting to make it happen. And yeah.
Can I ask a question? So
sure.
What was it about the first meeting that made you like have this instantaneous feeling of loving someone like that quickly?
I mean, I would say like the part here, it was already crazy, and we kind of fell a little bit in love, but I would say that was just like a start. It was not so that it was okay. I met the partner for life, so I think we both didn't have like this super extreme feeling right away here in San Francisco. We both knew, okay, it's worth exploring. So that like really intense part happened then in New York. So when we when we saw each other, we were like super happy. And I mean, we had this time between San Francisco and then New York, also to get to know each other way more over FaceTime calls and such. And I think that was like really, we had multiple dates in between, but just virtual dates. So so it was just pretty much condensed and like fast paced, but but it was a development. It was not like, okay, first sight and we're gonna marry the next day. I mean, okay, it became 4 months, so but still.
But it's also a combination of factors where you, Lee, you were in a state where you weren't that satisfied with your dating life, right? You weren't prepared. You didn't think you were going to meet someone. So when you least expected. Chris, you were in a time in your life where you were looking for a change. You were open to basically anything, right? Kind of like taking that next step or taking a risk. So those two factors came together so perfectly. But I think what we're getting at too is I want to hear about kind of the external factors, because there were some conflicts and some, some of your friends, some of your family were very suspicious of what was going on.
Yeah, I actually got a lot of, almost everyone was against it. Because just from hearing it, this is not something that is solid at all. Because they're like, oh, what if this guy is a scam? And you met from Airbnb, this is really random, and you don't know his friends, his family, you don't know anything about him. It just, what if he's faking it? Right. So that's the only question that people started asking me about. They're like, this is wrong. I think I tell people that if you meet him, you probably think otherwise. Just because Chris is a really genuine person, and I actually feel it just from conversating with him. I trusted him a lot when I met him.
And Chris, what about your friends and family? What did they think?
Easy. Easy. So the thing is, my friends and family, they know me. So I'm usually not the guy that does some super crazy out of the ordinary things. So, and if I say like, okay, I met someone and I have like this and that plan, then they trust me. So they trust my judgment. They trust that I know what I'm doing. And also, I'm also not that of a risk taker. So I figured out it's not a risk at all. So even like selling everything, like clearing out my apartment and leaving everything behind and condensing my belongings to 3 suitcases didn't seem like a risk to me. It was like just actually something that felt really great to get rid of a lot of stuff and such. And I thought like, okay, what could happen? So this feels right. And if it doesn't work out, I pack my 3 suitcases, fly back, and continue. So I didn't.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to lose because
to lose.
I could have started again or continued to work as a freelancer. I would have gotten a new apartment, new stuff. It was only things that I was giving away. So it was all fine. So I was in that kind of part of my life where I just really didn't really care about things that much. So and that definitely helped to make it like easier for me to make such a step. And yeah.
And the conclusion of your New York trip, what do you guys talk about?
We had like this initial plan of me just coming over as a tourist and we spend time and I do a little bit remote work and such, but I think you brought it up. I don't actually remember the exact part of the conversation, but you said like, oh, yeah, maybe you should get married. So it was like in the middle of a conversation and it was not even saying, oh yeah, why not? And I don't know, this was, once this thought was in, our plan A for doing the tourist part became more and more plan B. So, and getting married became more plan A.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm more of the practical person. I'm like, how is this going to work? I try to seek for results. Like, how do I get this work? It was definitely risky to unofficially propose to get married from the woman's side. But I thought, yeah, why not? Since Chris is a software engineer, he belongs to Silicon Valley. Yeah, that's true. And it's probably going to be better if he finds a job here and is going to be like a more sustainable solution for the both of us. But then why not? Then I thought the only thing that was that we needed to solve for was his status here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I can tackle that, and just ship him from Germany to here, and we can talk about the rest later, because that's like one thing that is blocking us to stay with each other for a long time. So then why not just remove that and then
But this sounds like so practical now. So the thing is, it sounded practical in the beginning, but actually for her, in the process, it became less practical because like she, of course, getting married is like a big step, and she had like I think every girl has probably like dreams how she wants to have her like wedding to be, and that she had that too. And the closer the day came, the more was she a little bit like emotional about I wanted to get married in Spain, and I wanted to this and that, and this is like, and I said okay, so there's like a little bit romantic missing, and so I tried. So there was not much room to get romantic back in, but there was a little bit room. So and that's what I used then. So we knew already the dates and everything, and so I figured out okay, I just tell her I arrive on that date, but I actually planned on arriving earlier. I connected with her best friend to plan, who I also didn't met at that time. Planned everything out and it's like, hey, can you help me? I have this idea. I want to arrive earlier and I want to like lure her to like a nice place and want to propose officially. Even if we have done it kind of already on the phone, I want to have like the real thing and I want to have it a little bit more romantic. And that's what we did. So we lured her to the Palace of Fine Arts. Aww. And but actually I was waiting there already. I was on the phone 15 minutes before that, giving her the impression I was like still in Germany. And
smart.
When she was arriving there, I was hiding behind a tree, and the photographer was distracting her, and then she turned around, and I was there. Aww. So, yeah.
Okay. And then, so that happened in September of last year.
Yes.
And then recently you guys went on sort of like a honeymoon.
Exactly 1 year later.
Exactly 1 year? That's perfect.
Yeah, so our official wedding was exactly a year later.
Yeah.
Because we had to have Chris settled in San Francisco, and we didn't have time to inform everyone that we actually got married on paper.
By the way, you didn't know I had a boyfriend, now I have a husband.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think, so I want to talk about some takeaways with your story. One of them is, again, timing is huge. We see it with a lot of couples. And also just, when you're not looking, they just appear at your doorstep and they come through any ways possible, through Airbnb, through some sort of stork that just delivers them. I mean, I love hearing that Chris was in this mindset of being open to anything. I think that's like a great way for people to get to know themselves and just to explore what can change their lives, right? If you're at that place where you're like, I'm complacent where I am, I've been here for a while, I've been doing the same thing, get in that mindset of, hey, I'm going to go and do something crazy, and if it changes my life, it changes my life. I'm going to let it do that.
Exactly.
I mean, the reality is this would never come to where it was if you weren't this open and forward with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The third takeaway I have is everyone's practical. Everyone's a little rational, and they think about, but what if, but what if, but what if? I guess what I'm taking away from this is just do it. Then you'll know what happens, right? If you never went to New York, you would have never known that you were in love with each other or falling in love with each other. If you never friended her on Facebook, you would have never known that this would be the love of your life. And now we have a question of the day. Julie?
So this is coming from Jessica, and she says, I met my boyfriend 6 months ago, and then I had to relocate to Australia. Mm-hmm. We're having trouble kind of keeping everything going, being long distance. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any advice of how to maintain a relationship long distance?
I think for long distance, like I mentioned, I wasn't confident about it because of the distance and because you don't get to see this person quite often. So I think one thing that Chris did was actually really impressive was he actually follows through. Like, from every channel, he could reach me every day. So he texts me whenever he gets a chance. He reports about, like, he tells me all the stories about his friends around him. He tells me everything happening. So I actually felt like I was actually living right by him. I think
you were fully integrated into his life.
I was fully integrated. I know about his family. I know about his friends. I know about all of their names, even though I have never met any of them. So he actually was really, really good at following through. So
you Skyped with his mom, right? Pretty early on.
I did Skype with his family. So he was open about, hey, this is my girlfriend. Meet my family, meet my friends, and their names are this and that. So I felt like part of it. So I think that was important, and you're gonna have to do it every day, and that's gonna keep it fresh and keep it going.
So challenging was for sure like the time difference that we had, so the 9 hours, but also that, I mean, I adjusted mainly I adjusted like my schedule a little bit, and I woke up crazy early, or went to bed pretty late, so sometimes both, so to just like maximize our overlap that we had in time. And it was like she just said, so we kind of followed up with each other, and it was like, okay, you come home, and usually you come to your loved one and you say, hey, how was your day and what you are doing, and so we kind of try to integrate each other in our lives, and even if I was away, she was a very big part of my daily life, and I tried to arrange everything around that. And I think that's something that can definitely help, overcoming this obstacle of the long distance. So this is definitely nothing that can work for. Probably, I will not say definitely not, but it's probably difficult to have this over multiple years. But over a couple of months or a year, I think if you just stick to it and show your appreciation and like include your partner even if he is not physically there, I think that can work. That can definitely make it work and keep it last while you are apart.
So the two lessons we would have for anybody about to enter into a long distance relationship is, one, you have to give it your best. If it fails, at least you can say, I tried my very best, right? And that's fully integrating the other person into your daily life. And the second lesson we're hearing is you have to have a timeline. You need to know this is not sustainable forever. So when is that time? When is that deadline when you're going to move here or I'm going to move to wherever you are? So have those two pieces of advice in mind, and you should be able to do just fine a long distance, right? Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up. This is such a great story. Thank you guys so much for coming and telling the story. I haven't heard the entire story yet. I've only heard the beginning, so this is great to know. If you want to watch the episodes of me and Lee on the dating show, I have those episodes, but I'm not going to post them anywhere. You just have to email in, and I will send you a private link. You know, listeners at home, if you have a cool, interesting, shocking, interesting story of your own, let us know, contact us. We'd love to have you as a guest on our show. We can protect your identity. We can protect the identities of the people involved in your story. And on that note, stay dateable. Your action item for this week is to focus your energy on making something work versus focusing your attention on all the things that could go wrong. There are some things in this world that are worth fighting for, even when all the odds are stacked against you. These are also the moments that define who you are as a person and what you value the most in this world. The most efficient way to meet new people is a combination of online and offline. 500 Brunches has your offline covered. Connect over brunch with new friends. Come alone or bring a buddy. There is always a table full of friendly faces, mimosas, and eggs Benedict. Sign up at 500brunches.com and use the code DATEABLE for a free entry. To connect with us, visit dateablepodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all under Dateable Podcast.